The final boss is back. It's go time. Season 3 is here. Are you tuning in? Every Sunday is Sitting Down Sundays with the final boss. Get ready for an inspiring journey as we dive deep into the transformation from the nation's capital to the entertainment capital of the world. This is the conversation that will ignite your dreams and fuel your ambitions. What you'll experience: game-changing insights from industry leaders, real talk about making impossible dreams possible, the blueprint for leveling up your life, motivation that hits different. This isn't just another podcast episode. This is your wake-up call to greatness. Don't just listen, absorb, don't just hear. Transform, don't just dream, execute. Drop a like in the comments if you're ready to level up with us.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. Man, listen. I got a great show for you tonight. It is episode number 196, man. Episode number 196. We are 4 episodes away from the end of season 3, right? The end of season 3. Right now, listen up, man. Look, it's been an amazing season, right? It's been an amazing season, and I can't tell you how excited I am about the new beginning. This season ending with the reckoning, which is what we pursue, right? And the rebirth is what we become. It is what we become. So listen. Each and every last single one of you, no matter where you're looking at from, if it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, man, we're everywhere, right? No matter where you are, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to, thank you. We greatly appreciate you so much, man. Thank you to each and every last single one of you, to my final bosses, to my smarts, to my motivators, to my warriors. Thank you all for being here. So gracious to have you, man. Listen up. If you haven't, go get Go Time. All aboard the Fired Up Train. This is your motivation workbook. This is your motivation textbook. This is the first book of a series of the Go Time series, man. Go Time principles and theory. Look, go pick up Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train. Go pick it up right now, right? Where all books are sold. Right. So listen, man, to all of you who are here, man, thank you. Tucci, the beautiful Jacondi is here. The beautiful Andrea is in the building. I even got the beautiful Dr. Colonel who's in the building. Good to see her. She's in the building. I got people TN-9315. Thank you. Dog Pound 676. Thank you. Toy Story 1190. Thank you. Look, there's so many people are coming in. Everybody understands the momentum of this momentous occasion as we're closing out in season 3, man. Thank you for all of you being here, man. Look, before we get into it, make sure you go check out our website at www.thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's www.thefinalbosspodcast.com, and go look at all of our episodes, right? And then if you want to be on part of the show, man, we're dropping something in season 4, man, that I believe is done before, man. And look, if you want to be a part of the Final Boss host team, right, where you have your own show using the Final Boss program and everything that comes with it, right? The Final Boss Nation, Final Boss community, Final Boss family. Shoot us an email, right? Shoot us an email at info, that's info at thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's info at thefinalbosspodcast.com. And listen, you can be a host here too, man. Look, you develop your topics and we'll push it out. And you be a part of the 350,000 plus followers that we have right now on our show, right? So let's get right into tonight's episode, man. It's going to be episode number 196. And this one right here is a little personal. This is it's called When Winning Almost Destroyed Me, right? When Winning Almost Destroyed Me. And let me go ahead and get rid of these banners, man, so we can go ahead and get ready to get into this show. Now, look, this particular show and this particular concept, right? This is a little personal experiential chapter, right? Of the part 4 sequence of started in episode number 182, right? Of motivation. We delivered the tactical protocols, right? On episode number 192. And tonight, with sitting down, right? I told you guys this was going to be a 4-part series. Tonight, I'm providing the evidence through the personal narrative, right? With the same concept. But we're going to be escalating and going a little bit more in depth into the whole core of this conversation. And this is right here. This is tier 1, right? This is the tier 1 core depth level, right? And now, the you guys know that you've been here for a while, my personal story. Yes, I was at the Pentagon 9/11 survival, 2 wartime deployments, survived that, veteran, right? All of that, right? You understand? That I have these business ventures, and I'm out here doing this thing right here, right? Doing this thing right here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the victories that almost destroyed me, right? Because this isn't theory, right? This is survival. We've been talking about victory has defeated you, right? We've been talking about that, and this is a part of that series, right? So this is a level up, right? This is a level up, right? And we're going to be discussing that, man, and so many different how can I say, pieces of the conversation, right? Pieces of the conversation, right? That all tie back into the other elements of victory has defeated you, right? So let's get into it, right? So I almost lost everything, right? Let's start there. I almost lost everything, right? Not because I failed, right? Not because anything dealing with business, the market, or you know what? Because my enemies won. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about life that has been constantly dealing all of us a bad hand sometimes, right? But in that, where we almost lost everything, it was because we won, right? It was because we won. Now ponder on that. Think about that concept, right? And tonight, I'm telling you, right here, right now, sitting down on Sitting Down Sundays, right? I'm going to tell you the truth I've never fully said out loud, right? The victories that quietly started taking you out, right? The moments that you stood on the mountain and felt you're getting weaker by every breath you take, right? Because of the air is thin up on top. The air is thin at the top, right? I'm talking about the times the trophy was in your hand and it became so heavy that it was a weapon and it pointed at your own future, right? Think about that, right? This is Sitting Down Sundays, episode number 186, and we're 4 episodes away, man, from the season finale, right? And I'm so excited, right? But I'm telling you tonight, victory almost did what war could not. So sit down. It is go time. Let's go, right? Let's go. But before we go deep, let me frame this battlefield, right? As I said earlier, this is part 2 of the 4-part sequence, right? from episode 192. Victory has defeated you, right? Give In that I gave you the tactical warning and the protocols. Tonight, I'm giving you the evidence, right? My personal testimony, my own victories, and how each one tried to quietly take me out. This isn't theory. This is my life in front of you, right? Dissected, honest, and applied, right? 4 segments of this sequence remain across the entire intellectual property catalog, right? Episode 192 started it. Tonight at episode 196, it gets a little deeper, right? Merger Wednesdays and March will bring the neuroscience aspect of it, right? And Go Time 3 will seal it as tangible doctrine. Now, we are, like I'm gonna keep saying it, we're 4 episodes away. 4 episodes away to the end of season 3. Right? Episodes 197, 98, 99, and 200 close out the reckoning before season 4, the rebirth launches episode number 201. Right? And tonight is not a celebration. Tonight is a confession that becomes a weapon. Right? And for my smarts, think critically about every word. And for my final bosses, find yourself in these stories. And for my warriors, right? No, let's not. No. For my warriors, right? You already know this truth. And tonight we name it, right? And for my motivators, who understand what you actually, who they're actually out here leading people through, right? We're going to talk about that, man. And before we get into it, let's go into the brass tacks. Let's go into the brass tacks. And tonight's brass tacks is this, right? The summit doesn't kill warriors with ice or altitude. It kills them with silence. The silence of having nothing left to prove. That's our brass tacks, man. That's our brass tacks, right? So let me go ahead and drink a little bit of this Java juice. All right. Now, 4 minutes. 4 minutes. That's all I need to explain why I've been holding this episode back, right? There are conversations you plan, and then there are conversations that plan you, right? That let that sit on your chest, right? Let it sit on your chest for months, waiting for the right moment to breathe, right? This is the second kind, right? We spent Monday talking about the concept, the idea that victory can defeat you. Tonight, I owe you more than concepts. I owe you my actual life as the case study. And here's what you need to understand, right? Here's what you need to understand, right? And this is what you need to understand about that. And where we are in season 3, The Reckoning. This season was never about celebrating wins. It was about reckoning with truth, the uncomfortable, the unedited, the unpackaged truth that builds real empires and real character. With 4 episodes left, I'm going out. I'm going out soft, guys. Sorry. I'm going out all the way in, right? And tonight's episode is the most personal sitting down Sunday I've ever recorded. By the time we're done, you're going to see my victories differently. And more importantly, you're going to see your victories differently, right? So buckle up, stay in class, right? Make sure you're taking some notes. That's the mission, right? That's the mission. That's why we're here, right? So let's go. Let's get into it, right? But before we do that, right? I need to give you the lens to see them through. You need the lenses, right? Because when victory defeats you, it doesn't announce itself, right? It's subtle, it's quiet, it masquerades as peace. And here are the 5 stages of how victory defeats a warrior, right? Stage 1 is satiation, right? The hunger that drove you goes silent, right? Goes silent, man. Listen to that, right? Goes silent. You stop feeling the fire. You start feeling uncomfortable. Comfort is the beginning of the end, right? Stage 2 is identity lock. You start defining yourself by the victory, right? I'm the veteran who made it. I'm the entrepreneur who built that. The achievement becomes your identity instead of your launching pad, right? And stage 3, the discipline erosion, the habits that built the win, the early mornings, the sacrifice, the relentless reps, they start feeling unnecessary, right? You already won. Why grind even harder, right? And then there's stage 4. This is when your vision gets blurry, right? You can't see the next mountain because you're standing on the last one taking photos. The view looks so good, you forget you're supposed to keep climbing, right? You're supposed to keep climbing, right? And then there's stage 5, right? Stage 5, right? Stage 5 is the vulnerability peak, right? This is where the fall happens. Discipline is gone, hunger is gone, identity is locked, vision is cloudy, and you are at maximum exposure, right? And you don't even know it. Everything that I'm about to tell you tonight maps to one or more of those 5 stages, right? One of those 5, right? Listen, when I was at the Pentagon as a fiber optic technician, right? In 2011 on 9/11, right? I survived, right? And surviving became its own trap, right? And here's what nobody's talks about when they talk about surviving. Something catastrophic. The world begins to treat you like you've already done the most important thing, right? That you will ever do. People look at you differently. They say things like, you've been through enough. You've proven yourself. You can slow down now, right? And part of you, a dangerous quiet part, starts to believe it, right? You start to believe it, man. And that's where it gets dangerous, right? That's where it gets dangerous. Because the stage 2 of that, right? That's when it hit really hard. That's when it hits hard, right? That's when the identity lock kicks in. You became the person who was at the Pentagon on 9/11. And that story is real. It matters. But I allowed it to become a ceiling instead of a foundation, right? It carried it I carried it, right? I carried it as a badge of completion rather than a badge of purpose, right? The victory of survival almost convinced me my work was done, right? It took years of deliberate reckoning to understand that surviving wasn't the end of my mission. It was the beginning of my obligation, right? The lives lost that day demanded that I build something worthy of their sacrifice, right? Not coast on the credibility of proximity to tragedy. If you've survived something significant, and I know many of my warriors have, they understand this. Survival is not your summit. It is your starting line, right? Honor the falling by continuously climbing, right? Continue to climb, right? Now let's talk about the decorated track, right? As you know, I served in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? Operation Enduring Freedom 6. When I was deployed, I served. I came home with decorations on my chest that I earned in ways most people would never fully understand, right? And those decorations almost became my prison, right? And here's the anatomy of what happens when you come home decorated from combat. You receive recognition that feels like a final verdict, right? Like the universe has stamped your life complete, right? You walked into fire and walked back out. And there are ribbons and medals and ceremonies to confirm it, right? If you put stages 1 and 2 combined, right, that satiation and identity lock, they hit simultaneously, right? I was full of experience, full of proof, full of credibility. And when you're full, you stop being hungry. I caught myself in moments of comfort that felt earned, but are actually dangerous, right? Moments where the discipline that kept me alive in a combat zone started feeling excessive for civilian life, right? And here's what here's what saved me, right? So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here's here's what saved me. My daughter. I got to see my daughter for the first time when I came home, right? Seeing her for the first time, and she reaches out to me because she recognized my voice. That moment is something I would never forget. I would never forget it, right? She was born while I was on deployment. I only was able to see her through video feeds. But when she heard my voice, she reached out to me, right? And every time victory tried to convince me I was done, I would look at what I was supposed to be building for her, right? And I realized I hadn't even started the most important mission yet. Combat is one kind of war. Building generational wealth for your bloodline is another. And I hadn't won that one yet. And I still haven't. I'm still fighting that war, right? To my warriors, right, who served, your decorations honor what you survived. Let them fuel what you build, not what you restore. Right? Iraq 2007 to 2008, right? Operation Iraqi Freedom, right? I came back from Afghanistan and went back in, right? Second deployment, right? Actually, third deployment, right? But by the time I came home from Iraq, something had shifted in me and my psychology, right? Something that I didn't fully recognize until years later. I had survived 2 combat theaters. I had been tested in ways that civilians genuinely cannot even imagine, right? And the psychological byproduct of that, the dangerous one, is the invincibility illusion, right? And stage 3, discipline erosion. But it looked like confidence, right? But it looked like confidence. When you have survived things, right, that should have broken you, right, and they didn't. I can't tell you how many car accidents or things that I've been in where I almost lost my life in the civilian world, right? That I walked away from unscathed, unscratched, right? Through I am, right? In that, your brain starts generating a story. I am unbreakable, right? I can handle anything. Rules and structures are for people who haven't been tested like this, right? That story is lethal in a non-combat environment, right? The discipline that makes you a warrior in the field, the structure, the hierarchy, the tactical precision, it requires translation for civilian life and entrepreneurship. I didn't translate it immediately. I assumed my combat tested psychology was simply transfer, right? It doesn't work that way, right? Victory without translation becomes arrogance, and arrogance lowers your guard at exactly the moment you need it most, right? The real victory after combat isn't coming home. It's successfully converting your warrior discipline into builder discipline. That translation is the work. Most veterans skip it, right? And the victory of survival eventually defeats them in the civilian arena, right? Listen, listen. This and this one, this right here. This one is the deepest. This is the victory that nearly cost me everything, right? Quietly, slowly, over 2 decades, 23 years in federal service for the Department of Defense, right? My last position was a branch chief, right? I built a career on excellence, decorated with titles and tenure, and the institutional respect that comes with longevity, right? On paper, a tremendous victory. In reality, a comfortable cage, right? All 5 stages operated simultaneously inside those 23 years. And I want to break that down for you, right? The satiation, right? The salary, the security, the pension, right? Those are basic needs that are met. Actually, more than met, man, right? That satiation started quieting the entrepreneurial hunger I was born with, right? And then there's identity lock. I became my title. I became the branch chief, right? Federal employee. Those nouns started replacing the nouns that actually described who I was: entrepreneur, empire builder, warrior, right? And then you have the discipline erosion, right? Not in performance, right? I performed excellently, but in dreaming, I stopped exercising the muscle that imagines bigger futures because of the current present was comfortable enough, right? That's when your vision gets blurred. I could see my pension date more clearly than my legacy. I will watch it, right? I will watch it. And then there's the vulnerability peak. I almost ran out the clock. Almost ran the clock out like an NBA game, right? I almost let the career be my story, right? The day I walked away wasn't the victory. The victory was realizing the cage existed and choosing the mountain over the comfort. That took more courage than either combat deployment, right? My final bosses, right? If your current situation is comfortable, examine it, right? Comfort is often victory's most sophisticated disguise. I say all the time, and Go Time 1, comfort is the enemy of death. No, I'm sorry. Ooh, boy, comfort is the enemy of growth, right? Comfort is the enemy of growth. Apologize for that, right? Now, I built the Final Boss podcast to 350,000 followers, right? Across all platforms, right? And I need to tell you this right now, tonight, that 350,000 followers is potentially my next trap. This is the live version, the unfiltered one, because the whole point of tonight is radical honesty, right? And here's the danger. The podcast is working. The community is real. The content resonates, and that success generates the same 5-stage sequence I've described across every previous victory, right? I felt it sometimes. I feel it. I feel it, man. I feel it. I'm telling you, I feel it, right? The moment after a great episode where I think that was enough, the moment I look at the follower count and feel satisfied, the moment the algorithm performs well and I want to exhale, right? With over 7 million views on IG alone right now for this month, right? Those moments are the trap. 350,000 is not the summit. 350,000 is the base camp. The summit is becoming the defining voice of human AI consciousness integration in the doctoral space, right? The summit is Go Time 3, changing how generation builds empires, right? The summit is my daughter inheriting a legacy that outlives me by centuries, right? 350,000 followers is a checkpoint, not a destination. And I'm telling you this publicly because accountability is a part of my protocol. If you ever catch me acting like 350,000 is the finish line, call me out on it, right? That's what this community is for. To my smarts, to my warriors, to my motivators, to my final bosses, you guys know this, right? The victory trap is real. I'm not exempt from it, and neither are you, right? Neither are you, right? The pattern, right? The pattern. Recognize the patterns, right? Recognize the patterns of what all victories have in common, right? Now let's examine that, right? But we have to pull back the lens for a second, right? Let's look at the map in totality, in full, right? Pentagon survived, Afghanistan survived, Iraq survived, other deployments survived, right? 23 years of service survived, 350,000 followers and growing. That's what we're doing. Each one a real victory, right? Each one carrying the same invisible danger, right? And here's the pattern I've identified across all of them. And this is for my smarts who need the analytical framework, right? Every significant victory in my life created a temporary identity ceiling, right? Every business, right? Every award, every achievement, right? A moment where the achievement became the ceiling of what I believed I deserved or was capable of, right? The ceiling wasn't imposed by enemies or circumstances. It was generated by the comfort of having the win, right? Having the win. Every time, every stinking time, right? Every time I broke through that ceiling, it required one, recognizing the ceiling existed, right? You can't break through what you can't see. And two, deliberately manufacturing hunger, because natural hunger dies after winning. If you have to architect it artificially, right? For me, that was my wife, my daughter, right? That meant legacy, right? That meant the people counting on this mission of me succeeding, right? Succeeding in the mission. And then there's three, identifying the next mountain before celebrating the current one. This is the 24-hour victory protocol from Victory from Monday's episode, right? Celebrate one day, then immediately name the next summit, right? And then four, right? Converting the victory into fuel rather than identity. The win becomes the why you keep going, not the definition of who you are. The pattern is the victory protocol in action. And it's the only reason I'm here at 9 p.m. on Sunday, right? Building something bigger than anything I've ever built. Instead of resisting or resting, I should say, instead of resting on every legitimate victory I've already won, right? You continue to grow, right? You continue to grow. My daughter is the antidote to every victory flap or trap, right? And I want to talk about my kid, man. I want to talk about it. So this is, if I get choked up, forgive me. Listen, sitting down Sundays, right? This is where, I get personal. And there's nothing more personal to me than her, right? Every time Victory tried to convince me I was done, every time the 5 stages started working on me, one thing consistently broke the spell. And it wasn't discipline, not ambition, not philosophy. It was my beautiful daughter. And here's the truth about building for your legacy. It creates a hunger that victory cannot kill, right? Because it's not about you anymore. You can convince yourself you've done enough. You cannot convince yourself your child's future is secured when it isn't yet, right? Every comfortable morning I ever wanted to stay in, I thought about what I was building, right? Every prestigious title that tried to become my ceiling, I measured it against what I wanted for her to inherit. Every follower account that felt like it was enough, I asked if it was enough, right? I asked if it was enough to fund the generational wealth I owe her, right? You owe your kids generational wealth, right? The answer has always and will be no, right? No. And that is what keeps the hunger going, right? This is the most important lesson of tonight's episode. And I want my community to hear it clearly. You need a reason. You need a reason bigger than you, bigger than yourself to outrun the victory trap, right? I said that in Go Time. Go Time 1, the first principle, understanding and discover your why. You have to understand and discover your why, right? Your why is, listen, if you don't feel it in here, if you don't feel your why here, that's not your why. Your why comes from here. Like the people say, your why comes from spirit, right? It's here, right? You feel it burning in you, right? I'm getting hot right now, even talking about it. Listen, personal ambition alone cannot sustain hunger indefinitely, right? Because at some point, you will feel you've done enough for yourself, right? Find your why. Find the person, find the purpose, the legacy that makes enough impossible to define, right? That's your antidote. That's the fuel that outlasts the victory, right? the fuel to outlast their victory. Now, let's talk about leaving the federal service, man. Let's talk about it, right? Walking away from one of the biggest wins, right? To chase a bigger one, right? Let's talk about the moment that defines everything I've said tonight, right? Yes, I walked away from 23 years of federal service, right? With full awareness of what I was leaving on the table. The pension, the security, the institutional credibility, the title, right? Most people around me called me crazy, right? I called it survival. And here's the thing about comfortable cages, right? Right? Comfortable cages from segment 6. You get to understand that at some point, staying becomes the greater risk. Not because the cage is falling apart, but because you are falling apart inside. The slow erosion of your potential is a more dangerous failure than any external loss. I recognize stage 4 operating in my life. Vision was blurry. I could see my pension day. I could see my next performance review. I could see my retirement ceremony in my mind's eye. And what I couldn't see anymore was the empire, the books, the doctoral authority, me finishing my master's, the community of 350,000 continuously to grow, right? The millions to millions, right? The legacy for my kid, right? The resignation wasn't leaving a job. It was choosing vision over comfort. It was deliberately stepping off the comfortable summit to enter the dangerous terrain of building something that doesn't exist yet, right? That is the hardest kind of victory to walk away from. The one that's still working. The one that hasn't failed yet, the one that everyone else around you thinks you'll be insane to leave, right? But final bosses don't build legacies from inside comfortable cages. They build them by choosing the next mountain before anyone tells them they're ready. I wasn't crazy. I was calculating. And the calculation was clear. The mission is bigger than the pension. It's like this cage I'm in right now. I'm leaving this cage, right? To explore, to go on a research expedition, I would say, of not only self, but in my doctoral research, in all that I do, to become the final boss, right? I'm leaving this next cage, right? And I'm branding something incredible, right? I'm branding something incredible. And I refuse to let the past define my ceiling, right? Now, let me tell you what comes next and why it matters to this conversation, right? As I'm going through the end of season 3, The Reckoning, and season 4, The Rebirth, is on its way. I have another ceiling that I'm punching through and I'm leaving, right? Now think about it. In July 2026, I start my doctoral coursework, right? And at CTU. I'm positioning myself in a new brand that I'm becoming, right? The authoritative bridge between human consciousness and artificial intelligence and public disclosure, right? This is the strategic move, right? That follows the resignation, that follows all the ceilings I've left up to this point, right? And it connects directly to this particular tonight's episode framework. Every victory I've described, right? Every victory, each one would have been sufficient, right? A sufficient ceiling if I had allowed it. Each one would have justified stopping. each one would have been enough for most people, right? But most people is not the standard that I play by, right? My friends, I am not most people. I am the final boss, right? I am the final boss, right? Now, pursuing that doctoral program is my deliberate act of anti-ceiling construction. It's my public declaration, right? That 23 years of federal leadership is not my identity. It's my foundation. It's the raw material that feeds what I'm becoming, right? Not the finished product. The brand, the new brand, is the next mountain. The Merger Wednesday's intellectual content is the base camp work. The dissertation will synthesize everything I've been building on this show into an academically credible body of work that gives this community access to doctoral level insight every single Wednesday, right? Victory has tried to defeat me at every stage. My answer every single time has been to name a summit so high that the current victory becomes irrelevant in comparison. That's the protocol. That's the practice. And it's available to every single person in this community right now. Right now, let me pivot for a second, right? Let me pivot for a second, right? I want you to understand your victory trap is real too, right? It's real. Now let's pivot, right? Because I've been honest with you, right? About my victories and how they tried to take me out. Now I want to hold that mirror up to you, right? Because this community isn't here just to hear my story. It's here to find their own, right? I'm talking to you, right? I'm asking you right now in the live, in the chat, right? In the chat, in the comments, right? After this broadcast, to do a victory audit, right? That I referenced on Monday. And here's how it works, right? Step one, list your last 3 wins, real ones, right? Things you actually achieved, the degree, the promotion, the relationship, the revenue number, the milestone, right? And then step 2, for each win, identify what softened you after it, what discipline slipped, what hunger quiet, what vision blurred, and be honest, right? No one's grading you, right? And then step 3, identify which of the 5 stages operated on you, right? Was it satiation? Was it identity lock? Was it discipline erosion? Was it vision blurred? Or was it vulnerability peak, right? And then step 4, name the next mountain, right? Not the plan, the mountain. The thing that makes your recent win look like a starting point. This audit isn't free. It takes 20 minutes to do, right? It's free. And it could be the most important 20 minutes you invest this week, right? Drop your next mountain in the comments. Drop it in the comments right now, right? Not the plan, just the mountain. Let's see what the community is actually chasing, because the Final Boss community doesn't celebrate ceilings. We identify them and break through, right? Now, let's talk about these last 4 episodes, right? We are 4 episodes from the end of season 3, The Reckoning, right? Episode 90, 197, 198, 189, 99, and 200. And then the rebirth, right? And I want you to all to get aboard the fired up train. Get all aboard on the fired up train, right? It's go time, all aboard the fired up train. Understand the methodologies and principles and theories that are in this motivation discipline workbook textbook, right? The first of a series, right? I want you to understand the weight of where we are in this journey, the weight of where we are on the fired up train, right? The reckoning wasn't about punishment. It was about examination. It was about sitting down with every uncomfortable truth, every hard pattern, every silent defeat that dressed itself as a win, right? And reckoning with it fully before the rebirth is possible, right? It's possible. That's what tonight has been. That's what this season has demanded of me, of you, of all of us, right? In this community, Find the Boss Nation, Find the Boss community, Find the Boss family, right? You can't not be reborn while still pretending the previous version of you was complete. You cannot enter season 4 carrying the illusions that season 3 was designed to destroy you. The reckoning is the necessary fire before the rebuilding. What are your final 4 episodes building toward, right? The closing arguments of everything this season has unpacked. The last drops of honesty before the curtain rises on something entirely new. And for my community, use the final 4 episodes as your potential reckoning. What in your life still needs to be examined before your next season begins? What victories are still functioning as ceilings? What comfortable cages are still being called success, right? Season 3 ends. Season 4 begins, but only for those who did the work, the reckoning, the work of the reckoning, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you? Ask yourself that. Are you ready? Right? Now, let's bring it on in, right? We pulled away. Now let's bring it all in, right? Let me send you home with this, with the victory protocol, right? It's actionable, documented, executable, and you can start tonight, right? This is what I've built across years of personal field testing, from the Pentagon to combat theaters to federal leadership to businesses to everything, right? Even to podcasting, right? This is the protocol that keeps victory from becoming defeat, right? That the victory before defeat, right? And step 1, right? The 24-hour rule. You got exactly 1 day to celebrate, right? Dinner, recognition, gratitude, whatever the win deserves, but contained in 24 hours. When the clock expires, you're back at it. You're back at work. No exceptions, no extensions. You get back at it. You get back to the hunger. You get back to being that wolf, right? And then there's step 2. Identify the next mountain, right? Before 24 hours close, you name the next summit, not the plan, the mountain, right? The mountain, and you write it down. You say it out loud. You declare it in the community. Declare it to someone who will hold you accountable. And then there's step 3, right? This is where you do your victory audit. Within 72 hours of any major win, run the audit from segment 12, right? Identify which of the 5 stages is already operating. Catch it early, right? And then there's step 4. The hunger architecture. Identify or reinforce the external reason you cannot afford to stop, right? And Ma, this is for you. I want you to understand that I cannot stop. I won't stop. I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time to rest. I have to keep going. And you know why I'm telling you this. I love you dearly. Mwah. Right? For me, it's my daughter. She's the why. Let your version be your why, right? This is the fuel that victory cannot extinguish because it's not about you, right? And then step 5, you reframe the victory. Reframe it, right? Every win gets reframed out loud, publicly, if possible, as a checkpoint, not a destination. This reframe is not a false modesty. It's strategic identity management. You are defining what the win means before the win defines you, right? This protocol is yours. It costs nothing. It requires only commitment and honesty. Run it after every win, especially the big ones, right? Now, in closing, right? We're almost done. Stay with me. We're almost done, right? The reckoning continues, right? You have to stay dangerous. We are at the end of episode 196, and I want to leave you with this, right? The most dangerous thing in your life right now may not be your biggest failure. It may be your biggest win. I've survived the things I've survived, right? And I'm continue to build. I continue to grow. You should be the same way, right? None of those victories defeated me, but not because they didn't try. Because I built a protocol strong enough to outlast every one of them. Because I found a reason, right? And that made every summit feel like a base camp because I chose the next mountain every single time. And that's what my final bosses do. We don't rest on summit. We use them as a launch pad. 4 episodes remain in the reckoning of season 3, and we're going all out with everything we have, right? Everything we have. And when episode 201 arrives, when season 4, the rebirth begins, you are going to understand why we had to reckon, right, with all of this first, right? I don't know why I couldn't get that out, right? You cannot be reborn without dying to what you were. You have to stay hungry. You have to stay dangerous. You have to stay building. You have to stay that wolf. You have to stay that lion. You have to be hungry. You have to continue to roar. You have to continue to grow. You have to continue to accomplish. It doesn't stop, right? For my smarts, analyze what I gave you tonight and apply it. For my final bosses, identify your current victory trap and name your next mountain. For my motivators, lead your people through their reckoning before the rebirth, right? And for my warriors, right? My dedicated warriors. You already know the mission never ends, right? The mission never ends. And that concludes this episode, right? Episode number 196, season 3, The Reckoning. It's go time, people. It is go time. And listen, to each and every last single one of you, thank you for being here. To all of you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you all for being here and being a part of the Final Boss podcast, the Final Boss community, the Final Boss family. Whether you're a smart warrior, motivator, or final boss, thank you, man. Thank you. And listen, if this resonates with you, man, share it. Don't gatekeep. Share it. Share it with at least 3 people. And while you're sharing, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, no matter where you find us, right? And if this information resonates with you, let it marinate in your spine, right? And remember this, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but the pain of regret is even heavier. I am here. We are here, right? Sorry about that. I am here. We are here, right? Always. I am is always here, right? And in closing, be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That's our show for tonight, man. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you again tomorrow night for episode number 197 of Motivation Mondays, right? Motivation Mondays. Motivation Mondays. Motivation Mondays. Hey, man, y'all have a great one. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you then. Take care.
3 seasons in, And we're just getting started. You've heard the whispers. You've felt the shift. Now it's time to face the boss. Welcome to Season 3 of the Final Boss podcast, where every episode is a power move, every guest is a game changer, and every Tuesday, a tech takeover, and every Monday is motivational with special guest Thursdays, and sitting down with the Final Boss Sundays, hosted by Turbo the CEO, the architect of insight, the voice of the underground, and your guide through the glitch. Plug in, lock on. This is the Final Boss podcast. Season 3 starts now.